There's 87 decisions you got to make at the end of life. If we don't express our grief in a healthy way, it comes out sideways. Grief is right here with us all the time. Most people, by the way, have no plans for the end of their life. We don't move on. We move forward with. Grief needs to be received by another spiritual being in a human body. Kids are way better at grief than adults are, by the way.
Death is so intimate.
My death isn't mine, it's the community's. If we don't welcome grief in, it's going to get crazy.
I am genuinely so excited to sit here with you because we were mentioning just like the presence of an elder, and you can't buy experience.
Yep.
And it's so palpable, your humanity. Like I feel overwhelmed by that. And I'm just excited to hear all of your stories today and read this incredible book. Grief's walking stick. And I guess I would probably just like launch off is like, where would you start if you were opening up a conversation to the culture on like, what is grief to you?
What a good question. I don't know. I'd probably point at the book and go, what do you think about the color of the cover?
I feel like it feels really warm, and it's making Justin, because he's like, see, grief can be, we had a conversation about grief being not red, but so
warm.
Yeah.
That was the reason I chose the color. Was people have an idea that grief and death are black and dark and in the shadows. That's where we've pushed it. It's not true. It's grief is right here with us all the time. You know, Francis Weller calls it a fundamental life energy. And he's right. It's fundamental. Our suppression of our grief, you know what it shows up as?
What's that?
Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, TV addiction, sex addiction, eating addiction. If we don't express our grief in a healthy way, it comes out sideways because it's this living energy that needs to come out and be shared and be witnessed and be validated. If it doesn't, we're going to force it to stay in. I used to work downtown East End, Vancouver, with homeless, drug-addicted, alcoholic folks. You know what they all had in common? A mountain of unexpressed grief underneath their addiction. When I sat with them and wondered with them, how'd you get here to the corner of Main and Hastings? Tell me your story. And they would, and we'd trace it all the way back. And then we'd see this dot where they first felt hurt and where they first started to cover it up. And then, you know, one shot worked for a while, but then it had to be 2. It had to be 4 needles a day. It had to be 6 because the grief kept growing. So it's energy we need to bring back to life.
Energy we need to bring back to life. And in all your experience, when you see somebody in deep grief, whether you're by their bed or you're just listening to their story, how do you help them tap into that or move it, or is witnessing it the call?
Mostly, I just sit still and quiet. You know, many helpers try and fill the space with unnecessary words or all kinds of stuff. And quite often I'll just sit with them and I'll breathe and I'll connect with their soul or their spirit. That's where the difference is made, is when they feel the spiritual connection between me and them, then they can relax into their grief. They can relax into their dying. They can relax into the process they're going through because they feel seen and witnessed on a deeper level, not just on a human level. You know, Anton Truer, the great Ojibwe death shaman, speaks about exactly this. He says, no, we're not human beings seeking a spiritual experience. We're a spirit having a temporary human experience. And so when you take that as truth and you make contact with the spirit or the soul of the one living in the body, everything changes. You can actually feel it in the room. When I put my attention on you or on the one who's dying or their family members, as the spiritual being they are, you can feel the room settle. It just settles because we're not panicked. We're not frightened. Somebody's here that recognizes the spirit of it all, and it just settles down. If we forget the spirit, death can be really disturbing because, oh my God, I'm out of here.
3-degree connection, her friend.
Wow.
And so it's a chain. So it's the butterfly effect.
Got it.
Yeah, so like whole is one, but better at the. And so it's been really cool because it's like all these random people. I was like, never think of the odds of that I would
Yes.
actually meet that woman in Egypt that one time I was there in an airport and just recognized her because of her finger.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like her friend, three down. And it was me and my girlfriend who came from, So
you're asking, how did I get into death doulership?
Yeah, like how did this find you?
That's a nice way to put it, by the way, because it found me. I didn't find it. I wasn't looking for end of life stuff. It's like, no, man. It started a long time ago on the 5th of May, 1988, Thursday night at 6:32 exactly, when I got a phone call from Roy, my dear sister Jodi's husband. And all he could say to me was, Stephen, Jodi's gone. And I said, well, where, Mexico? Because gone, what does that mean? And he couldn't speak to me. He gave the phone to his mom, and his mom said, Jodi died tonight. And I went totally numb because it came out of the blue. She was 36, healthy, beautiful, amazing woman living a great life. And I was a corporate finance guy, And graveside, when I was lowering her body into the ground for the first and last time, the casket thumped on the bottom of the ground and it turned a switch on in me. And I just woke up like I was in somebody else's life. And I was in my father's life, my uncle's life. It wasn't my life. And days later, I walked into my boss. I was a corporate finance guy for Burns Fry in downtown Toronto, 51st floor, BMO Tower. And I just walked into the boss's office and said, dude, I'm out of here. And I packed up my bags and moved out west and became a social worker.
Wow.
And so that was the start. But it had many iterations. About 15 years ago, I have a close relationship with God. I call God grandmother because I can't handle the concept of God. It's so big. You can't make sense of it. So I just call it grandma. So grandma and I, we're good friends. She visits me all the time. One day she said, honey, she calls me honey. I don't know why. She said, honey, I got a job for you. I said, oh, what's that, grandma? She said, I'd like you to be a death doula. I said, okay, can I call you back on that one? And I didn't, because it's like death doula, like, oh my God, I just couldn't, I couldn't,
Was that like a known thing in the culture at that time? Like a common thing?
No, it wasn't common at all. It was beginning, but it was way back in the beginning days when nobody was talking about death and dying. So anyway, I just didn't call her back, and you don't want to do that with grandmother. So she showed up about 6 weeks later, and she said, honey, I asked you a direct question. I said, oh, grandma, you probably gave the job to somebody else. I said, no, honey, no, it's your job. Only you can do it your way. I need to know today, are you in or are you out? Oh, man, I couldn't say no to my calling because there is a real thing, a calling. You probably...
Literally, she called.
Yeah, she called on my cell phone. And so I sat and agonized over the decision for quite a few hours. And finally, I couldn't stand myself anymore. I just tapped my heart and I said, Grandma, I'm in. And then I burst into tears and just wept with joy because I'm blessed that I have responded to my calling. I came to the planet to do this job and I'm doing it. And since that day, it's just grown and evolved. It was a bit difficult at the beginning because nobody wanted to talk about death and dying.
Yeah, like what was your first experiences of holding somebody in transition?
Well, it was kind of my sister way back and holding my family. And I didn't do it very well, but I knew that we weren't doing it very well as a family. I guess my first experience was with a beautiful woman from Vancouver. She was 96. Her name was Rosalie. And she wanted to die in the family home where she lived her whole life. She tended the gardens her whole life there. And her family wanted to go into a long-term care home. And she was insistent that she would die in her home. So her great-granddaughter, called me and said, help. I'm going, this is my first client. Like, oh my God. So I went to the home and sat down with the family and the son was insistent that his grandmother needed help and needed to be in a long-term care home because there's not going to be death happening in my home. So we just talked about it and talked about it. And I finally said to him, "What are you so afraid of, dude?" I called him dude. "What are you so afraid of, dude?" And he looked at me like I'd asked a question he didn't want to answer, but I wouldn't break my gaze with him. I said, "Please, what are you so afraid of?" He said, "Living my life without my mother around."
Mm.
And he started to cry, and I tapped my heart, and he tapped his heart, and we had a hug. I said, "What do you think?" I said, "Okay, if your grandma dies here." He said, "Yep." And so we organized it. We got in the hospital beds and the commodes, and we made the bay living room window, much like this one, into her bedroom because she could overlook the gardens. And they tended to her for 3 weeks. Finally, one Friday at noon, she took her last breath, surrounded by all the women of the family as the men were outside playing bocce ball.
Mm.
And they got to linger with Rosalie because we had all the paperwork in place and we could have her there for a couple of days. So they dressed her in her favorite dancing dress. They did her fingernails. They put on her makeup. They did her hair. And all the while, just telling lovely stories about Rosalie, lingering, crying, laughing, giggling, eating, having some fun, having some sadness. It was beautiful. And what I noticed was all it took was a little bit of boldness mixed in with my compassion. I'm a very compassionate fellow, but that boldness was the key. Because otherwise, without boldness, compassion is being nice.
Mm-hmm.
Being nice doesn't work.
It doesn't get us that far.
Yeah. Like asking that question of the eldest son in the family. So what are you so afraid of? That's a hard question to ask.
Yeah.
But it needed to be asked. And when he opened to it and answered it, magic happened.
Wow. Death is so intimate. I think that we really miss that intimacy and that we're all yearning connection. And just the visual of all that family sitting there and loving her so fiercely and with so much devotion is like, why would we miss that?
Yeah. And I think, that point you made about intimacy, grief is also intimate.
Yeah.
And in North America, sometimes we've mistaken sex with intimacy, and they're two very different things. And that intimacy, that closeness, that oh my God, it's something we all savor, but it's something we all run from. So when grief comes or death comes, those are moments of profound intimacy on a human, emotional, mental, and spiritual level.
An awakening.
Totally.
Like it changed the whole course of your life, that one moment.
Totally. Wow. I'm quite clear that the brand of the Grim Reaper that was created back in the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, the Black Death days, 1340s, was a mistake. People were trying to make sense of what just happened. And they created this Grim Reaper thing. It's a terrible brand. Some dude with a weapon and a black hoodie and a skeleton. It's a terrible brand.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I'm working on changing the brand to the inspirational teacher, which might look a little bit like me.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would prefer to see you on my last few breaths than the Grim Reaper.
No kidding, eh? So it's just, how do we normalize it? And how do we normalize intimacy?
I feel like even just as a student, like showing up in this like serendipitous conversation of like needing elders and this wave that's coming. And I also think what's so beautiful is that you're totally prepared for everything that life gives you. If when we really look at it, we might not want it, but it's like you've lived this life in literally, what was so profound to me, in every corner of grief.
Yeah.
You have been in relationship and made friends with every version of grief.
Yeah.
And so if I were
maybe it is me.
Have an embodied, like the elder, the inspirational teacher is embodied in a world of AI where we have all the perfect words. We can write, but you can't feel
That's right.
the words.
I know when I read AI-generated script, it's like there's nothing in it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read something that somebody's written, it's like, wow, there they are.
Yeah, like it's this is the part we're overlooking because it's like resonance.
Yeah.
And that's a felt thing. It's not
the vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think about that all the time and being like, are people going to, these words or these sound bites are amazing, but is it going to be resonant?
Yeah. If you're in it, there will be.
So
maybe I am the inspiration.
I think you are. Like, no, but you are.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
like
the brand.
literally, you are. Like, that's how I read it.
We have to rebrand the.
That's how I read it. Like, that's how I interpreted it.
Oh, maybe that's true then.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this whole thing, the one in the 800 Brazilian, was just so some random little girl could come and be like,
by the way, you're him. You're the inspirational teacher.
I found the inspirational teacher in you.
Thank you.
That means that I need to learn from you. So it's
Thank you.
I'm telling you that you're the teacher because I'm the student.
Thank you. Get it.
Mhm.
Appreciate it very much.
Well, that's a good question. Like, from your lens, like, how do we normalize these conversations of grief?
Well, we were chatting a little earlier about my neighbors next door when my cat Tiberius died. That's how we normalize it. The girls, the sweet girls, they came over and they would take care of Tiber and little Missy when we were away for the weekend. They'd feed them and do the litter box, and we'd pay them $10 cash, and everybody was happy. Well, Tiber died about a month ago, and they knew him really well. They loved him. He was a good friend of theirs. So a bit against my family's best wishes, I went next door, and I had a chat with the two little girls. They call me Grandpa Uncle Stephen because they don't know what the heck I am, so I'm Grandpa Uncle Stephen. And I shared with them, Tiber died a week ago, and he died in my arms, on my lap, and he took his last breath with me, and it was lovely. It was beautiful. And I just wanted you two to know that Tiber's not with us anymore. He's died. And we're going to get him in an urn, and we're going to hang him in the back tree. And when we do, I'd like you to come over and say hello to Tiber. Would you do that? And they said, oh, yeah. And they were crying a little bit, but it was healthy crying.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave me a big hug and said, you okay? I said, I'm fine. And come and visit when we have Tiber in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we normalize it, just by talking about it very simply. Kids are way better at grief than adults are, by the way.
Oh, I've absolutely seen that. They're kind of way better at everything than adults are, let's be honest.
Because they're closer to source, right?
They're agile.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So that's how we do it, just by having conversations. The late, great John Underwood created the Death Cafe model. And I've led hundreds of those things. And all that is a bunch of people getting around in a coffee shop, out in public, talking about death and dying.
So even, it's like such a kind of weird question, but it's like when you're talking about death and dying, like, what are you talking about? What do you talk about?
Oh, man, it's wide ranging.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the age of the person and how close they are to death. With somebody who's closer to death, of course, you talk about the death and what they're worried about and their concerns and, what their plans are. Most people, by the way, have no plans for the end of their life, even though it's a certainty.
Yeah.
51% of Canadians have some rudimentary form of a will. That's it. Most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us hasn't planned our funerals. Most of us hadn't done any thinking. Our advanced care directives, what I want from the medical system. So it depends on the person.
Well, what happens from your lens, seeing it so closely when people don't have a plan?
Oh, it's a gong show.
Like what do we not know that we don't know?
We have total autonomy over how and where and when we die. We don't know that, but we do. We have say. If I don't attend to my advanced care directives telling the medical system what I want and what I don't want, they're going to plug me in and keep me alive because the medical system sees death as a failure. Death is the enemy.
Right.
So we need to talk about where and how we want to die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a very natural conversation, just hard for people because we've forgotten how to do it.
And at what stage should people start having these conversations?
I'm chatting with my two boys, Ollie and Ben. They're 31 and 33. And they're both in committed relationships. They both have dogs and cats. They got all kinds of living things. We're having those conversations now. I've created a little binder I call my all ready to go binder. And it just maps out all the things I want and I don't want. My funeral arrangements, my advanced care directives, my will, my powers of attorney. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all ready. They don't have to worry about a decision.
And what are the things when people, even when they do have it together, that is often overlooked?
Spirit. Number one, we've handled the money, we've handled the house, we've handled the cars, all that's handled. What gets missed most often is the spirit that's living in the body. And because the body is very temporary. And so they miss the spirit. And that's where things get a little weird. If they're not prepared at all and spirit's not present, that's permission for fights and chaos.
With the family.
Yep. Because it's easier to fight. It's easier to be in chaos than it is to sit in the deep intensity and intimacy of grief. Much easier to pop up here. Let's have a good old fight about it. Let's yell and scream about, Dad left me the car. He didn't leave the car for you. Rather that, because it's easier than drop into the depths of the grief, which is incredibly intimate.
I feel like being a feeler is like, was such an interesting paradox, because people are always like, I'm such a big feeler. And then you're like, but how do you stay in these places and not be overwhelmed by it? And it's weird. It like alchemizes. Because you're like, no, because I'm made to feel. So it works. But when I'm in a non-feeling plane, then it feels overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I did have a really beautiful transmission this weekend. I was up doing equine therapy.
Oh, yeah. And horses, man. They're so fantastic.
They're like, I have such a connection. And it was interesting because all the horses that deal with grief wanted to work with me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you can't write this stuff.
No.
And then what was really beautiful, so one horse calls me over and I go over, and he's the horse that's like dealing with grief. And then the other horse that wanted to work with me was this like, it was the youngest, and he was like very playful and very like no trauma, like, just like kind of almost like angelic, like, but just goofy and mischievous and messing around and nipping you. And they came over. And so I said, what would you have me know in order to lead in this new moment? And the horse, like, I thought it was going to be all heavy. And so they started to play.
Yep.
And they were rolling on the ground. I'd never seen a horse roll like that. And they were like jumping up, and it was like, whoa. And it was really like the childlike version of me is what allows me to sit in darkness.
Yep, 100%.
It's like, and it was really saying like, you have to keep that play, like that you can't get serious. And then the other thing I love from the horses is every horse before they worked with anybody went and ate. And I was like, they knew that they had to nourish themselves first, so they were a liability to the herd.
Isn't that interesting?
And I was like, I kind of got,
self-care.
Like, the concept of maybe even self-love, being of service.
Yeah.
And especially like in this moment where I was like, so many caregivers are going to have burnout. And like, how do we do
you know 1/3 of all caregivers predecease the one they're giving care to?
Yeah, you said that.
1/3. Like, what the fuck?
But it makes, when you see it up close, you're like,
I saw it here.
I
saw it here. It's because you're giving and giving and giving.
Yeah.
And all the attention's here, but you've got to be selfish and take care of self first. That's the biggest gift you can give over there, is a healthy self. If you're unhealthy here, you're not really giving care there.
Yeah.
You're just doing tasks, and that's not care.
Yeah.
That's doing tasks. So.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one, because this capacity is a real thing, right?
Yep.
And capacity is not something you can give someone.
Yep.
It's something you have to earn.
Yep. You got to grow into it.
And so I think that's I'm sure you see it a lot too, about wanting to heal other people to heal yourself. I have noted is at the foundation of caregiver burnout.
Yep.
Because you're like, you can't.
Healing there doesn't heal here.
Yeah.
It's an individual, personal job.
And I think if I was correct, I was reading a stat that 1 in 3 families will not speak for a year. And what I'm hearing from you is this is really a spiritual crisis.
Yep, 100%. If we really know that we're a spirit having a temporary experience, we're going to plan well and leave our families the gift of a well-planned end of life. That's the kindest thing we can do. My boys, my wife do not have to worry about any decisions. There's 87 decisions you got to make at the end of life. Try that when your loved one has just died and your brain isn't functioning really well. You've got, grief brain. You're in the emotional center of your body. You've got to make 87 decisions in 3 days.
And is that an actual thing? 87 decisions?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. There's a whole bunch of stuff you've got to handle immediately. And so if you're not well prepared,
what is one of those 87 things that people have to handle immediately that they're very unprepared for?
Getting the death certificate. Because that's final. I remember my mother chose maid 2 weeks ago. And I remember when the doctor was here signing the temporary death certificate, I received it on behalf of the family. When I took it to my father-in-law, man, like, it's real. And so getting the death certificate is that's the tough one. It's not hard to get it, but emotionally, mentally, physically, it's tough to receive it because it's final. There's no turning back. Hope is gone. Everything's done. The body's dead. So that's a tough one. Then there's all the banking stuff, and you got to close all the accounts and credit cards and debit cards and all the automatic payments, everything. It's just it's a sea of decisions that have to be made. Getting CRA involved and getting Ottawa involved and all the CPP stuff. It's just a gong show if you're not ready for it. So out of my love for my family, I've got all that stuff handled. It's all ready to go.
And for somebody who has it, say, together versus somebody who doesn't, what is like that time span that it usually takes, say, for somebody who doesn't have it together, because that's really the window of your grief? What are you focusing on?
It can take up to 2 years to have a will probated if you haven't got a will in place. And the province gets involved, of course. And then there's, loss of money through probate taxes. There's all kinds of stuff. It can take up to 2 years.
So just making that one decision to have a will can save your family 2 years.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
And
when you quantify that, that's like...
Yeah, it's a lot. It depends on the estate. It can be very expensive. I worked with a woman whose husband died of cancer. He was a friend of mine. And I said, dude, you got 6 or 8 months to go. Like, where's your all ready to go binder? He said, I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to kick this thing. I got this handled. I'm not dying.
Yeah.
And his fear of death, spoken that way, he didn't get his will done. And so he died. He had a wife and 2 kids. All the bank accounts were in his name. The business was in his name. The house was in his name. The cars and trucks were in his name. Wife was stuck. She had to borrow money from her family to live for 2 years until the estate was probated. It was horrible. And there was this anger at the dead husband that was in the background, like, you should have, and maybe he should have. And so if it's not ready, it can cause big problems for families.
Well, there's that whole other conversation of the secondary grief and really understanding our impact.
Yep.
And what is kindness?
Yep.
What is compassionate dying is beyond just the self.
Yep. Way beyond.
I think that's often not spoken to.
Yeah, way beyond the self. We don't realize, there's the primary loss, the death of the loved one, but then there's this whole series of secondary losses around them. I'll give you an example of my own home. My mother-in-law used to love doing laundry. I can't stand laundry. I can't stand it. I hate doing the washing. Oh, she died. Guess what? I got to do my own laundry now. That's a secondary loss.
Yeah.
When I go down there and put the laundry in, I stop and I think, oh, Diane, it reminds me that she's no longer with us.
Yeah.
So our secondary losses are like that. They're these little tripping stones that we trip over to remind us that our loved one's gone. But we don't pay them much attention. We pay all the attention to the fact that our loved one's dead. But the secondary losses, man, they're cascading losses, another word for the more accompanying losses. Mm-hmm. They're there. And I'm seeing it with, my family here. She's not around to do the dishes downstairs and Danny gets a little grumpy.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me just bring up that grief isn't linear. And that's another thing to speak to is that, there's no timeline on grief, but what do you typically see in somebody's experience of how do you know you're moving on, or it's integration, or just one day does life just go on, or what happens in a healing process?
Yeah, it's so unique, and there is no timeline. And the thing I'm clear on is our grief of our loved one is never over. Mm. We move forward with the grief until we die. It never leaves us. My relationship with my sister is still my relationship with my sister, and she's been dead since 1988. My relationship with my mother is still my relationship with my mother. She's been dead for 3 years. Yeah. Our bond doesn't die, nor does our grief. Its intensity, its craziness, that changes over time, but it never vanishes. We move forward with, we don't move on. In North America, everybody says, well, when are you going to get over it?
Yeah.
And when somebody says, well, you're still crying over your sister's death? Yeah, and I'm damn proud of it. Because I loved her like crazy. Mm. Why would I stop loving her just because she's not in her body?
Yeah. The relationship doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. So our grief doesn't stop. But there's patterns that you can see. But, grief is, I've got a book in my office. Grief is a sneaky bitch.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's so funny because being a death doula, a grief counselor, people come and they've got a scheduled time. Okay, Thursday at 2:00, my grief is going to show up. And grief goes, no. Grief shows up when it shows up. It doesn't show up when we want it to. And it often shows up when we don't want it to. It's this very sticky energy. And so it's so different for everybody. There's no one recipe.
That's so beautiful.
Here's all my loved ones.
Is that your sister?
This is Jody.
Hi.
Look at her eyes, and she's fantastic.
Jody. She is fantastic.
She's right
like
here with
really
me.
Like looking at me there.
Well, she is.
Yeah.
She's so beautiful.
She is really beautiful. How old is she here?
She would be 36.
In this photo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she was. And this is
your cat?
Good Tiber. Look at this guy.
Love this guy. He was like your familiar.
Yeah. He and I were, we were deeply connected. He died lying on my belly in my arms, purring a little bit. And you know what he said to me?
What?
He and I would talk every so often, not like words, but his parting message to me was, Stephen, I'll put that up later, your presence is enough. Be more generous with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
That's beautiful.
Came from my cat, Tiberius. That's how it goes. So a friend of mine makes pottery urns.
Oh, is that an urn?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And that's where I'll go.
This is where you're going to go?
Yep. And my mother, Marge, Daisy, is in this urn.
Okay.
And so my friend Mark is this potter. I said to him one day, why don't you potter some urns? And he has, and they're selling like crazy because they're natural and earthy.
Yeah,
and people get it.
And I love the concept that you can be in relationship with this home. Like, this is your home.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's going to be your home.
So my home is in my home.
Yeah. I love that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
It's just relaxing into it, There you go, Jody. God bless you.
I am but a mirror.
I wrote that right after Jody died. And right beside it, of course, is my letter from my teacher, Skanda. That's where I got my spiritual name.
Whoa. Is it okay if I read that?
Yeah, go for it, please. It goes to great lengths to explain the concept of para and the concept of bhakti. And then he names me.
Wow, you definitely have had a really
Yeah.
We're all spiritual beings. We don't all have spiritual lives.
Yeah. And mine's been all of that plus some. And here's my Buddhist teacher right up here.
Is this one that you did the interview with?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was a picture of him. He went on a penniless walk through India for 4.5 years to cleanse because he was getting a bit egoic because he was this, teacher guy. And so he came out after his walk, almost died, but he chose not to die, to live on. So here he is. And he looks way different.
I was going to say, he's a really young man here.
Yeah, look at him. That's him now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's him now. So.
Okay. And then this one, I'm but a mirror.
Yeah, that one came right out of my heart just after Jody died.
Yeah, it's really felt.
Yeah.
Beautiful penmanship.
Yeah, it was back in the day when I was painting and a bit more scripty now. Too busy teaching. That's my art form now.
Wow. I am but a mirror. What you see is we. That's so beautiful. Love that.
Indeed, eh?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have you ever read The Egg by Andy Weir?
No.
Oh,
send it to me.
It's beautiful. I'm going to send it to you after. And it's a short story. It's one of my favorite short stories. And whenever I love reading it out loud.
Yeah.
And whenever I read it out loud, and I often have read it to those who are passing.
Yeah.
And also children. And it's so interesting because children get it right away. And adults are like, what?
Huh? Say that again?
Yeah.
Kids are so clever. They're so not encumbered.
Mm-hmm. What are those 7 languages of sorrow that you have seen over all of these years? Oh, well, Pastor Gary Chapman created the 5 love languages. Yeah. And I thought,
okay, if there's love, then there's got to be grief languages. So I did my client base, and I noticed, there's 7. There's 7 of them. One is the talker, and we do well in talk therapy. We do well in support groups. That's great. Another one is the writer.
Mhm.
We journal. We have a death binder. We do poetry. We write lyrics to songs. Some of the best country and Western songs are sad songs
Yeah,
about
it's true.
grief, right?
Yeah.
There's the mover and the shaker. Some of us are very kinesthetic, and so we need to move our bodies. We need to, throw a basketball or a football, or we need to go for a walk or a hike in the woods. Grief support groups and grief walking groups now are talking about the mover and the shaker. That's what they're attending to.
Right.
There's the sensitive one. You and I are kind of that way, where we feel everything wide, and deep. Sometimes our grief is so big we can't even find a word that would describe it. But banging on a djembe, or playing a flute, or playing a violin or a guitar, or making some sounds may get the grief out. So there's the sensitive one. I had a client of mine who was a flautist for the Victoria Symphony Orchestra, and he was very sensitive. He'd lived with his mum for the last 12 years of her life, and she died, and he was just grief-stricken. And he said, I can't talk about it. And so I asked him about his life. What do you do? He said, I'm a flutist. And the light went on in my head. I said, could you write a flute solo that would express your grief for your mom?
Beautiful.
And he did. 2 weeks later, he played it for me. For 45 minutes, he played this beautiful flute solo of the grief he felt for his mom. I just sat with him and wept. So he was the sensitive one. There's the seeker, which is more spiritual. And so a seeker might light candles, might light incense, might do ceremonies or rituals. There's the artist, of course, the painter, the sculptor, the carver. All those are beautiful ways to express our grief. I worked with a family. There's a young boy. His dad died suddenly, and he was a logger, and he loved to carve with his chainsaw driftwood. So he sculpted a statue that would represent his family and his late dad. So he carved his grief out, which is beautiful. There's also the avoider. And the avoider gets a bad rap, but, the avoider can't handle it right now.
Right.
So let's put it in a file. Let's put it in the filing cabinet. I'll get to it later. The important thing is to get to it later. And so those are some of the languages that we can use, that if we start to recognize there's 7 different languages, the talker won't force you to talk if you're the sensitive one.
Right.
The talker will go, oh, honey, I know. Let's go downstairs to the family room. Let's play the drums.
God, this is a beautiful thing to even learn with your family if you know somebody's passing, of
Totally.
what is going to be our language.
Yep.
Because what I'm hearing, most of that is like the way that you channel moving it.
Yep.
And that grief has to have somewhere. Does it have to have somewhere to go?
It has to have somewhere to go. And grief takes 2. This is the challenge, especially in the North American culture that's so fiercely independent. There needs to be a sender of the grief, and there needs to be a receiver of the grief. And the receiver needs to be open, compassionate, and validate and witness the grief.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice in your own experience, when you've gotten your grief across to somebody and they get it and they say thank you, you feel lighter and you've let some of it go. And so that's the important ingredient. And this is what I think drives some people crazy, is they'd rather go to their bedroom and cry in their pillow. And they'll have an energetic release that's temporary, but then the grief builds up again, because the grief needs to be received by another spiritual being in a human body. When it's received by somebody else, then there's relief, not just release.
Wow. That's actually really profound, because in a culture where we're just lacking so much intimacy and just starving for connection, is these big threshold moments where we face grief.
Yep.
In this big final moment is kind of our most like felt and awakening, and like our greatest opportunity for connection.
Big time.
If we know some of this wisdom.
Yep.
What makes a death doula specifically? What is it?
Well, I've taught a lot of death doulas over the years, and I think it's some kind of internal, heartfelt calling. Because all the students I've taught, it's not like on the list of great jobs to go for.
Yeah, it's definitely messy.
I used to be an employment counselor. There's nothing like that. But people who come to the college where I teach and come to the program that I teach, it's like I don't know, man, I just got to try this. Now, they don't know why, but it's something deep inside. And so I think it's just a calling that maybe we've served this way before. Maybe it's a desire to help at a very intimate, important time of life, but it's not a job choice per se.
What do you feel like a death with or without a death doula? Like I don't know if the culture is fully clear on the role that they really play in that process.
Yeah, like a doula is primarily a non-medical team member of the care team. And doulas do this. They have conversations. They normalize the experience. They may witness the emotions. They may suggest an end-of-life binder. They may help clutter clear the home after the loved one has died. They may help with the clothing, all kinds of stuff to help the family move forward at the family's tempo, at the family's pace, the family's way. My father-in-law is not ready to let go of his wife's clothing yet. It may not be for 6 or 7 or 8 months or 13 months. Who knows? When he's ready, that's when the doula would step in beside and companion Danny, not do it for him.
Yeah, it is very companion based. I think that's like something beautiful to clarify.
Yep. We're not taking somebody's pain away. We're not fixing them. It's not about that. It's about witnessing and companioning and walking with the family as they're going through the death process, walking with the family as they go through the after-death process. It's kind of like this, we know that death is coming. There's been a terminal diagnosis. So there's all this pre-death stuff that we're doing with the family, then death, the event, because all it is an exhale. That's it. Then there's all the post-death stuff. And so that's what the doula does. Helps get ready for the final exhale, helps the family be there for the final exhale if that's their choice, and helps them mop up after.
And coming from a counseling background and a death doula background, how do you feel that they differ and how do they work together? And what would that ecosystem in a best case scenario death look like?
Well, if I were only a doula, I would find myself a grief and loss counselor and I'd have a team. I'd get a real estate agent in there. I'd get a notary public there because that's what I have. I've got a team of professionals that can help the family. I'm just a coach or the quarterback. I'm just helping out and introducing people to others who can help them. And that's what a doula would do. A doula would have a team of colleagues that can help the family with finances or help the family with the real estate or help the family with all that kind of stuff. More of a coach.
It's like a death coach.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Do you know where the word doula came from?
I've got no idea.
Yeah, like
but that's a great question. We should
like
Google that.
Yeah, I feel like you guys should Google that. Is this like a new phenomena, or has this
it's been around for
what's the roots
years.
of doulaship
It's
and
been
death?
around for thousands of years. You go back to any indigenous culture and you'll see the medicine women, the medicine men. You'll see the doulas there, the elders there. It's always been. We think death doula is new. No, it's not new at all. It's been around for thousands of years.
Well, this is an interesting one in the industrialization of death. Like how have we ended up here?
Yeah.
And when did the culture shift from dying together and dying separately? Like
it's that 1900s, 1901, 1902, something happened. In the 1800s, death was still on the farm or in the village, and we built the caskets together. We carried the caskets. But something happened in the 1900s, and the medical system started to take over. And then it just kept on taking over.
So like birth and death around this era both started to be hospitalized.
Medicalized.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you were saying something earlier about the stats, even just in BC and Canada, of our homes. Can you speak to that a little more? That was pretty shocking to me.
Well, it's being an old corporate finance guy, I like to play with numbers. So we've got 1.2 million baby boomers living in British Columbia.
And that's just British Columbia, like not just the rest of Canada.
No, there's about 9.5 million of us in Canada, about 80 million in the USA, and about 1.8 billion on the planet. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot. That's a big wave coming, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at that wave coming, that used to be the population of planet Earth in the year 1900.
Wow.
So the whole planet's dying in a way, if you will. So statistically, with 1.2 million people coming at a supply system of long-term care homes, hospice beds, and hospital beds. We have 401 hospice beds in the entire province of BC, right? We have 10,000 hospital beds on a good day. We've got about 28,000 long-term care home beds. So we've got 40,000 oddish beds for a population of 1.2 million people. Most people, about 93% of us, want to die in the family home. Currently, only 17% do. That's going to switch because of necessity. There's no room. You try and get a long-term care bed right now. You're on a wait list of 6 to 16 months to get into a long-term care home. Try getting into a hospital bed. Holy cow, it's the wave is coming. And so our families aren't prepared yet to have their elders living with them and giving them care at the end of life. But that's what's coming our way.
Yeah, and when you hear those numbers and you just know that the math doesn't add up,
Yep.
Every single person in the culture is going to be a doula to at least their direct family.
Yep.
And in a weird way, there's something kind of beautiful about that, bringing back this separation and intimacy amongst our culture and our home, that maybe it's like a necessary remedy.
Well, I said to the late, great Premier of BC, John Horgan, I said, you know what, dude, maybe the death of the baby boomer generation is a community development opportunity in disguise. He thought I was crazy and started talking about hockey because death isn't an election vote getter. It doesn't get many votes. Anyway, I think there is a real beautiful opportunity here to bring death back to the family home where it so rightfully and fundamentally belongs. When my mother-in-law died downstairs in her bedroom with her husband right behind her, holding her, with his daughter right behind him, and all the family members touching her knees, touching her hands, all gathered in a circle, all weeping with joy because there's relief involved, and with sadness because there's death involved. It was like so sad, but so beautiful at the same time. And she died, and we all just hung around with her.
Do you know what this is like? We're actually bringing death back to the people. I just had this epiphany that in this experience is that we are bringing death back to the people, and we haven't been dying in that sovereign way. It's been in a way like out of sight, industrialized, and
corporatized.
In everything that's happening right now in the world. It's like, whoa, we're actually getting this thing back. And I can only imagine that that's going to have people live more beautifully, more
100%.
alive to have those experiences with each other. And so maybe it's all kind of intended. And I'd love to speak a little bit to, being a death doula, a counselor, like you've had so many different lives, but you're also a minister. You're also worked in cremation. So you've really seen death in every avenue. And then being a ceremonialist, like all of those things, what are they?
That's a huge question.
That's a huge question, but you're like you're a big man.
Well, what I've learned is true spirituality is just life. And we're all just living it. Baking cookies is as spiritual as saying a prayer or meditating or going to church. And death is a very spiritual experience. It's a very sacred experience. Why would we push it away? What are we so afraid of? We need to bring it back home. I think of homeless people, my heart aches. And where are they going to die? Hopefully with their brothers and sisters that are also homeless, but they have as much right to a dignified death as anybody does, and it's just so natural and normal for me. It seems weird that we don't do it in the family home, that we've pushed it away. It's like, because if we push death away, we push life away. And if you look outside there, it's, boy, oh boy, it's pretty gray and beige. Because we've pushed death away, we've also subdued our capacity to live. And when you think of athletes, some athletes play with reckless abandon. Why don't we live with reckless abandon?
Yeah, that's really the call. And to be a ceremonialist in this way, what does that mean? And what would you want people to know, or what's possible about coming into?
I think of doulas like they're artists. They need a whole bunch of colors and a whole bunch of paintbrushes, meaning tools, and theories and skills and abilities. And then they need to pay attention to the canvas that's in front of them, the family. For example, one of my first clients, she phoned, she lives in New York City of all places. She called me here. I don't know how she found me, but she did. Her daughter was killed by a drunk driver at 10 o'clock at night in New York City, and she needed some help. And so I got curious. This is what doulas do, is we get curious. And I wondered about her. And so I said, because she said to me right off the get-go, I don't do talk therapy. And I'm going, I'm a talk therapist. Oh shit, I'm in trouble, And so I just started to explore with her who she is. I got curious about, well, what do you do for work? And what do you do in your spare time? And I discovered that she liked to paint. She didn't want to talk about how she was feeling. So I said to her, what would happen if you went to your art studio and painted me your feelings? And the light went on. I saw her eyes light up. Boom, off she went. And over the course of 18 months, because sometimes traumatic death, the healing is a lot longer. Over the course of 18 months, she did 9 paintings for me called Pain Has No Color. So that was her language of sorrow. So when we get curious with the family and see who they are and maybe check out their kitchen and see if they like peanut butter or whatever the heck, we just get to know them a little bit, we'll start to notice what the family does together.
Mm-hmm.
And what the family does together can be turned into a conscious ritual. For example, if you used to bake, chocolate chip cookies with grandma and grandma just died, maybe a lovely ritual a week after grandma's died is baking chocolate chip cookies. And if you set it up with the family in that way and maybe tap the heart or, some kind of connection like that and say, let's get together as a family and let's remember and tell grandma's stories as we're baking chocolate chip cookies. That's a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal. Maybe the family played music. Maybe they like to get together and jam for a little bit. That could be a ritual. Lighting a candle and remembering your loved one is a ritual. And there's not all this hocus pocus big ass stuff. It's very simple, practical stuff based on the family values and the family needs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do it well, if we get curious with the family and let them be the experts and we be the curious ones, then we're on the right path. Our curiosity is very, very important.
What's like a very maybe unique ritual that you led for one of your clients?
Bocce ball. Right? How can bocce ball be a ritual? If you say it's a ritual, it's a ritual. Right? And so I worked with a bunch of men. They're really missing Rosalie, their grandma. And so I said, hey, okay, before you roll that ball down there, say a story or a share about Rosalie. And then as you let the ball go, let Rosalie go a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So we turn bocce ball into a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's up to us to say whether it's a ritual or whether it's not. Don't you think?
It's really beautiful that grieving and healing can just come in so many different forms is what I'm really hearing. And that it can be also in life.
Totally.
And just the act of making it a ritual and bringing intent is like giving you permission to feel.
Yep.
And you're moving the grief through for your clients or yourself. And I think that's something I'm going to take away from this is that we can grieve and live at the same time.
Totally. It's not one or the other. I'm watching my family and there's moments where there's just sadness there. Awesome. Grief's welcome in my home. Thanks for showing up, And there's moments where we're kibitzing over a cribbage game. It's just life going on, or we're having a great meal. And then the sadness comes in again. It's just about making grief a welcome guest in the home, as opposed to the enemy, somebody that we don't want to have around. What happens if we treat our kids that way is they misbehave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if a kid wants some attention and we don't give it to him because he's not behaving the right way, he'll get even more crazy. So does grief.
Right.
If we don't welcome grief in, it's going to get crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be
It will
welcoming.
find you anyways, won't it?
It always finds. It never goes away.
Yes. Yes.
I was working with a student the other day. 28 years ago, one of her teenage friends was killed in a car accident. We're doing a case study on a teenager who got killed in a car accident. Guess what came up for her?
Mm-hmm.
28-year-old grief that she wasn't able to express then because she didn't have the tools. Look how magical that is. Her body, mind, spirit held that grief for her until she was ready to express it. And it came pouring out of her. It was beautiful. It felt like it was fresh and new. Didn't feel like it was 28 years old. So it's
like the body remembers, right?
Always, always. Grief doesn't go anywhere until we express it straight out.
And how was being would you call it a cremator? Is that the name for it?
It was, oh man, yeah.
Like, how did that come into your course?
Oh.
Like, that's really close to death. That's like processing death.
Totally. I mean, touching dead bodies, it was like, oh my God. I was in Varanasi, India, and I was sitting down by the ghats watching the beautiful community way that they would cremate their loved ones on a funeral pyre on the banks of the Ganga, the Ganges River.
Yeah, Mama Ganga.
And there's a monk guy in the back tending to the Shiva fire that had been burning for 5,000 years. And I was going down every day just sitting and really honoring and praying and letting my heart open even more widely to the beauty of death and saying goodbye as done by the Hindis there. And he saw me, and one day he called me in. So I thought, oh, I must be in trouble. He had me sit down by the Shiva fire, and he didn't speak English. I didn't speak Hindi, but we communed somehow. And he put some ashes on my forehead and ashes on my wrist, and he said a bunch of things and did a bunch of hand gestures, and then he tapped me on the shoulder and sent me away. And I came back to Vancouver, and 3 weeks later, I was applying for a job as a cremationist. So I think in some spiritual way, he was nudging me into the work so I could experience it and see the sacredness of it. What we do in North America is not nearly as sacred as what happens on the banks of the Ganga River. It's a business. And so I was in the business of cremation, trying to be sacred with it and trying to help families come and take part in it. And I slowed the system down a bit too much, so they fired me because I wasn't very efficient. But what I learned was that that cremation or that burning of the body is absolutely sacred, and that it needed to be approached in a sacred way, not in a corporate way. So that's what I learned. I saw probably 1,500 dead bodies over my 2 years with that organization, and it served me well. It served me well. I'm glad I popped into that work environment to see what really goes on. Now I can help families be prepared for what they might bump into, which might not be quite so sacred, might not be quite so spiritual.
What would you want a family to know who just didn't know? What might they bump into?
Subtle sales pressure, know what you want from the funeral home and then go and ask for it. And if they try and sell you more, just say no. When I work with families, I'll ask them, the average funeral costs, $12,000 in Canada. It's a fair bit of money. And the casket gets burnt in the cremation, by the way. And so I'd just say to the family, just understand, here's some things that you can organize. You can buy a casket if you want. You can have your loved one in a cardboard box if you want. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. But be clear on what you want from the funeral home before you go. Because you're going after a loved one died, you're not going to be thinking very well. And there is such a thing as buyer's remorse after funerals when they realize how much they spent and that they didn't have to. So let's be prepared way in advance and get that ready. My brother said to me when he was dying, he said, cardboard box, basic cremation, no more money to the funeral home. I want my money for my family. So he was ready. So when I went to help him get that arrangement made with his wife and the funeral director, I just told him, cardboard casket, basic cremation. That's it. Thank you. And so I knew what I wanted, and I got what I wanted. I didn't get sold anything that I didn't want. So that's an important thing. And if we're not prepared for death, we're not going to be prepared for all the stuff around it. And the funeral arrangements are one of them.
Yeah, is bringing the sacred back to the dying process is really seeing that doula connection is being really powerful.
Big time.
Wow.
Another thing I learned, when you return ashes to a family, that's their loved one.
Yeah.
Let's treat it with respect and dignity and return the ashes as a sacred gesture as well. It's not just a plastic urn with some ashes in it. No, that's their loved one. It's very sacred. So we need to
Well, those 1,500 people that you cremated, I feel really happy that their families got you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I can't imagine somebody passing me my dad and not treating that as like the most sacred, thing to hold your loved one in your arms, literally as ashes is, something that you can't prepare for.
Nope, you
what
can't.
You're going to feel.
I mean, you can plan it and be ready, but then there's the actuality of it.
Yeah.
Like when we went and got my mother-in-law's ashes, we knew we were going to go get them. But then you get them, it's like, ooh, it's real. This is really Diane. She hasn't gone for a walk. She's really here now. And there's this, I don't know, it's like a sharpness to it, a reality to it that's breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not ready for that stuff.
Yeah, we have those moments. I think they can happen, these arcs in grief, where there's really specific moments, like when you got the call, that there's a before and after.
Yep.
And it's community that allows us to come together. And we're kind of all doulas, aren't we?
Totally.
If
we just don't know it.
Yeah.
A true village would do that.
Yeah.
Like my neighbors have come over and brought some food, brought some love, and brought some hugs because they know. And so they're coming over and helping out a little bit. Not all of them, but a few of them are coming by. And that makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would want us to know about grief or the dying or death?
Take a deep breath and jump in. And I guess if there is one other thing I'd like you to know, we've got to find a way to get the men involved more. I'm on the board of the End-of-Life Doula Association of Canada. I'm the only male board member. And there's one or two other men members. It's a small percentage. Men die too. Men grieve too. We've just been trained out of our natural healthy grieving by a culture that thinks that weeping is for sissies and that men should, keep a stiff upper lip and get back to work. It's not true. Men grieve too. And we have our own unique way of grieving, and we need to honor that more. And some men's groups are starting to discover that, we got to bring grief back to life. If we want to be true, full men, we have to bring grief back to life. We have to bring our tears back to life and let them be.
And what do you think, if you were to speak to it as a man, what is the specific way that men grieve or need to be supported in grieving?
I think it's hard to say because men are so different and so unique, but I think being a bit more physical, maybe dancing, maybe a rugby game. I don't know. Men are a bit more physical.
Yeah.
And so to express their grief by building the casket or by lowering the casket into the ground or by, doing something physical is very helpful for men.
It
Because that's what
comes
we
back
used to do.
to the stewardship of the culture and those rituals.
Yep.
And how they allow us to move that pain through purpose.
Yep.
And movement. So that's beautiful. That's something I'm really gonna take with me, is that if you know somebody or a male who's grieving, is to maybe be in movement with them in that process.
Yeah. Because when you watch funerals now, everybody's just sitting.
Yeah.
The men included.
Now you go to a funeral in India and it's like a festival.
It's a festival. So how do we bring that back? Because we used to do it only 125 years ago.
That's like really just one and a bit generation.
I know. So getting men involved, like I said, building the casket, that's a very beautiful thing that we can do for our loved ones is, and I have a friend who is a woodworker. And so he helps people build caskets in advance. Then you stand them up and put shelves in them, and it's a bookshelf for a while. So it's dual purpose.
Yeah.
It's a casket in disguise. And so, we can do things like that and to bring the men back into the grief circle in a healthy, honest way.
Beautiful. And how would you like to die?
I had this giggle with my boys the other day. I said, guys, when I'm heading out, the cribbage board's on the table. We're playing crib, and Ollie, I've just skunked you. And I'm so happy I take my last breath. Kunk. Who knows? That's my wish. I wish I go with my family. I wish my friends and loved ones are around. I don't want to die alone because I want to help them recognize how intimate and sacred and important death is. So share. My death isn't mine; it's the community's.
I think that's a really big thing. Is your death is actually the community's when you go.
Yep. So
who's your death doula?
Haven't got one yet. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I do now.
Hopefully not anytime soon, but I'm available.
I'm around for another 20 years.
Yeah. We'll start with just learning from you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And me from you.
Thank you so much. This was just like such an honor for me to really just know what it's like to be in the company of an elder and just leading us in this way. And just thank you for like everything that you've done for like the hundreds of people that you have given better experiences. All makes me feel emotional.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.